Well, welcome back to Hockeycards.se, the podcast. Once again, it's David from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and me,
So
Patrick, from just outside Malmo, Sweden. 6 hour time difference. And if you want to see the face of sleep deprivation, here's David, because this is very, very early in Tennessee.
it is. It is. And we I got up at 4 to start prepping for this thing, 4 a.m. So and by prep, I mean turn the computer on and throw a hat on. Crack open an energy drink. But yeah, my sleep deprivation face sadly is the same as my I just slept for 10 hours face. So when you were saying that, Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Malmo, Sweden, two more famous cities
Yeah.
you'll never hear.
But at least it looks like you still have a house, though, David, because I saw yesterday there were tornado warnings in your area.
Yeah, and it's been a wild spring. I mean, I don't know what it is. We have in America Tornado Alley,
Yeah.
which we've never been a part of here. But Tornado Alley has officially shifted. So officially now it ends kind of just between me and Nashville, about halfway. So 45 minutes from here technically starts Tornado Alley. But we have had more tornadoes here, and I've lived here my whole life. I never heard of a tornado hitting here until I was 18 when a tornado hit here. And we used to always be told, oh, we got the mountains. I mean, I'm surrounded by mountains. We'll never have tornadoes. And now it's just every year there's new threats. I mean, my house that I live in now was hit by the Easter tornado in 2020. My house wasn't, but the neighborhood was. And
Okay.
like the neighborhood 3 minutes from here, that whole area was completely destroyed. And to this day still hasn't been completely rebuilt. And up until about a year ago, so like a war zone. I mean, literally like a bomb going off because a big tornado hit. Yeah, but this particular season, it keeps usually the tornadic stuff is relegated to April, late March, and then through April, and we're still getting it. And it has not gone more than a day without raining in 2 months. It's I mean, crazy, but it's also been a lot less hot. I don't think we've hit the 90s yet. We've only had a couple days in the 80s. This whole week, it's supposed to be in the 70s. Like it's keeping it cool, which is nice. Because usually by this time here, it's in the 90s. Yeah, last night.
Do you have like a shelter? I mean,
in my house, we have, my house is a pretty tall house. And we have underneath the main stairs, there's a room that you can go in. I mean, it's meant for storage, but it's, the central area of the house, and it would be well fortified. Like that's where we go. We've had to hop in there a couple times, but it is what it is. That's,
man,
living here. But I mean, I know people that have it way worse, and the little further west you go, like in Nashville, they get them all the time now.
Yeah.
Fortunately, none ever hit like downtown, but all the areas around it. Yeah, it's pretty wild, and it seems to be growing more and more every year.
And I mean, from hearing from you talking about what it's like living there, you enjoy the rain, you enjoy the pollen, you enjoy the humidity, you enjoy the heat and tornadoes. So you've never thought about relocating or?
No, of course not.
No.
Yeah, no, I do hate, and I told my wife this. I'm like, one day, when the kids are grown and gone, I want to move somewhere up north. And just, not that I love the north, and I make sure to tell my wife that all the time, because she's from the north. These rude punks from the north, but just something a little bit more comfortable temperature wise. I don't mind rain, and I don't mind, but And I do like having 4 seasons here. I do like that. And I actually like tornadic weather and stormy weather. One of my dream jobs always when I was in high school was to be a storm chaser. I wanted to do that. To me, that's fun. I'm the kind of guy that when there is one coming, I go outside. Family you get in the thing, I'm going outside to watch. I've always been fascinated by weather. That part doesn't bother me. But yeah, a lot of pollen, a lot of heat in the summertime, a lot of humidity. That part I could do without. So your area, on the other hand, looks pretty idyllic. Very idyllic, I will say.
Yeah, it's far enough south for us to not get a lot of snow. We typically have like 1 or 2 weeks, even though last couple of years it's been more erratic, but typically 1 or 2 weeks of snow, and the rest of the time, typically autumn winter is a couple of degrees above freezing, and it's raining a lot. And then we have fantastic summer usually. Spring comes late, but it's really nice apart from the pollen, and we have a really nice summer. I think we typically have like highs in the 90s roughly for like July, August, and into September.
I mean, that's what it is here. So I guess our climates are identical. Because, I mean, really, in the wintertime, we stay around freezing, but we don't get a lot of snow.
Yeah.
We have threats of snow all the time, but usually once a year, maybe twice a year, we'll get some. And by some, I mean an inch or two. Sometimes we get 4 or 5 inches, but the problem here is our city hasn't invested in any sort of when snow hits here, it shuts everything down. There is no going to school. I mean, I still have to go to work, but there is no, everything else shuts down. But yeah, I mean, that's about what we are. And then summertime where I'm at is, usually in the 90s on a typical day. We rarely get into the triple digits.
We typically maybe more in the 80s, but we do get up to the 90s, like end of July, early August.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think it's not as humid here as you have it.
We're really humid here.
That's the thing.
Yeah, even on days like yesterday. So we had the tornadic type weather. We went outside to go to dinner, and it was only 75 degrees, but you almost instantly start to sweat going outside because it's like walking into a sauna. It's a 75 degree sauna.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do have that.
Have you ever been to Card Expo, David?
Well, we do have a couple of annual card shows here. I don't know. I would not call them expos because they're not big. They are ones at a high school. Usually pretty tiny, and the cards are always way overpriced.
Yeah.
I'll give an example. I went to one a couple years ago, and there was a very particular card I was looking at and looking for. Went to this card show, and it was at the show for this particular card. I want to say it was like $80, something like that. And I didn't buy it. Went home that night, bought it on eBay for $40 in the exact same grade, in the exact same slab. Half the price. They're always way overpriced. We do have one coming up here. That's here every year. But again, the problem with it is there's really only one vendor there that's really good, that has really reasonable prices. It's one of the big boy vendors. But because they're one of the big boy vendors, they do sell stuff at a reasonable price. I've got some great deals from them. But if they don't have anything I'm really looking for, last year I got a couple of vintage hockey cards for cheap. Yeah. But typically hockey is not something that's at these shows very much.
Not big in Nashville?
No, well, in Chattanooga. In Nashville, yes. Yeah. Now, if it was Nashville, it'd be different. I've never been to the National, which is the huge thing here.
Yeah.
There's these national shows here that are massive that I see YouTube people go to. I was actually going to go this year. The wife had given me clearance because last year a group of us had talked about meeting up this year, but that was pre-baby. pre-pregnancy, all that stuff. So that kind of threw the wrench into that plan. So no, I haven't.
Yeah.
Been to a huge one.
Well, I've also seen the YouTube videos of like the nationals in the US and the Toronto fall and spring expos and things like that. And we don't have any of that that kind of size over here. There are some expos happening, and I went to one actually 2 weeks ago, I think. So the biggest one on hockey. The biggest one on hockey. I mean, there is so much Pokemon going on everywhere, and there's a lot of soccer here. Maybe some basketball, tiny bit of NFL and baseball. But this one is the biggest one on hockey, which turned out to also be completely invaded by Pokemon this year. But I went there anyway. It's about a 3-hour drive from here, and the great thing about it really is that it's really about. I mean, there are a couple of companies hosting it who are active here in the hobby, like retailers. But they are really trying to make it about the hobby. So it's free to enter, for example, and no tickets, no fees to enter.
Wow.
And it's very cheap to rent a table as a private person individual to set up. I mean, if you want to sell your cards, they're very, very low cost, more expensive for companies. But the best thing about it was that I got to meet quite a few of the people in the Hockeycards.se community who were there. Like it's like if it's not too far, and if you go to one expo per year, you probably go to this one, right? So that was fun. So I actually had more fun in the evenings drinking beer with people from our community and who is in our Facebook group and on our Discord than I did at the expo. I did find a couple of cards though that I picked up, and I actually didn't pick any of these up from any of the vendors there, any of the ones who were selling, but I found them with people from the Hockeycards.se community who brought cards to trade. So I traded for these.
Yeah.
And that was nice. So I thought I'll show first one here. I think people now may know that I am a Rangers fan. So this is a Braden Schneider rookie from Black Diamond.
Very nice. Yeah.
So jewels of the draft, it says on the back, it says 2020 draft, round 1, pick 19. Has a piece of a player worn, not game used jersey, and numbered to 99, an auto. That was one of the cards. The second one is another Braden Schneider. This is also from Premier, or this is from Premier, so one of the high-end products.
Yeah.
So no autos, just patches, but numbered to 25. I think that's a beautiful, stunning card.
That is incredible. The way those patches are laid out. I love in the center there. That's gorgeous. Yeah.
Again, it's player worn and not game used, but typically there are very few rookie cards with game used memorabilia because of the logistics. They need to actually play a game, an NHL game, and they need to get the shirt and cut it and put it in the cards and ship it before everyone gets tired of this year's releases. And finally, I actually got this from a guy in the community who knows I collect Rangers. He bought a box of flagship extended series and opened it at the show, and he hit this Young Guns outburst of Dylan Garand. So again, being a Rangers fan, I'll happily take that. It's a nice looking card. Not sure he will ever actually play a game for the Rangers, but nice looking card.
No, that's great. Yeah. So the absolute greatest part of your expo story to me is the meetup with the Hockeycards.se people, and the fact that you got cards from those people and not from the actual expo.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome that expo is free. I think it's really awesome that it's cheap to buy a table there. Here it is not either of those things. And I know that to go to the national is expensive. That's just to get in. And then you got to buy the VIP if you don't want to wait in line and do all the things. But every single year without fail, everyone I see post videos of all this stuff, the greatest thing about it is the meeting up with other people. It's not the vendors at the thing. So when our group had talked about maybe trying to go this year, it was hey, it's in Chicago. The Cubs are also playing that weekend. Let's meet up and go to a Cubs game and then maybe go to the National. And that turned into, well, I really don't even care about going to the National. I don't want to fight that many people. Like I can buy cards on eBay, probably cheaper than I can at the National. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that hanging out, that, you guys could do your own thing, man. That Hockeycards.se, just once a month or once every, 3 months, just, hey, we're going to have a meetup in whatever location and trade cards. And, I think that's incredible. And that's what it's all about. It's that community, right? I'll show a card. Shameless plug for Hockeycards.se. For those listening who may not have ever bought into one of your breaks, I don't think I showed this last time. This there is a fan case hit, Ryan O'Reilly. You join one of Patrick's breaks, he pulls you a case hit. He's pulled 2 for me, so it's gonna happen. But no, that's awesome. Just hanging out, and even in your breaks. Now I don't get to. Well, I get to now that I'm off work. At least I'll get to a lot, but because of the time of day they happen, I'm at work. But when I do get to watch them, people in the comments, that's the fun part about breaks to me, is not the actual pulling of the cards, it's the talking to people in the comment. And that's how, the people that I've known the longest from the YouTube community, a couple people in our chats, right? Like Steve and Clint and guys like that, and Ken, are people that I guess you want to say met while watching breaks in the comments, while we're chatting in the live chat while watching breaks. That can lead to friendships. Like, it's crazy to think about, but it does. And I think that's so great that you got those from other Hockeycards.se people. I think that is fantastic. And again, that would be my thing. I would be more interested in hanging out at a bar, drinking some beers. Like, to me, that would be the most fun. That's kind of what it's all about. It's that common interest, that hanging out,
Absolutely. I completely agree. I've met some great people through this hobby and through these, and thanks to the Hockeycards.se community, really, and this sort of casual social sharing of a couple of boxes, and it's so much fun to meet up in person and just spend like an evening drinking beer.
For as absolutely terrible as I always think social media is, and I think 99% of the time it is, that 1%, that's what it was meant to do. I really think the original intent of social media is exactly the thing that you just said. Those kind of meetups, that's what it's supposed to be. We don't use that. We don't use it for that anymore, right? We use it to riot and pillage and burn. But, I think that's incredible. Really incredible. I'll show a couple more cards just real fast. Because I pulled them out. This is my first ever eBay 1 of 1, for whatever that's worth. I didn't know what one was forever.
Is it a first print or?
No. This is a Philip Forsberg private signing. But it's numbered 199 out of 199.
Right.
But
cool.
I love this.
That's
card. It's a beautiful gold. Card. So really great.
That card looks fantastic. It's thick too, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes, it is.
Thick, right?
It is.
I love thick cards.
Star of the World Championships, right?
He had 1 goal in 5,000 games, and it was an empty netter as well.
Empty netter. Yep. That's right. And then my first ever, and I'd never even heard of these cards, never seen them before until your channel, Ingrained. And when I got this card and took it out, and freaking awesome, man. I have a small Andrei Svechnikov PC. Added this one, this auto. Sorry for the glare. It's on card. It's just the Ingrained card itself, though, man. These things are just freaking gorgeous. I love these cards.
Does it
And
feel like
cheap.
wood as well, or because it looks like wood? Does it feel like
Yeah,
wood
yeah,
as well?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about it, man. It's I almost feel like a snob saying this, but like, you talk about different foods, right? And you hear people say, "Oh, the mouth feel." How was that? But to feel these cards, right? Like it's almost like, you hold a vintage card and there's just that feel to it that just can't be replicated.
Yeah.
I love that card. So again, shout out to you and your channel, because that's where I saw Ingrained, and then you had picked up an Ingrained. I want to say that you shared a picture of, and I'm like, oh man, that's a beauty. And then I started looking for some and saw that one, and yeah, I had to have it. So yeah,
it was I think it was this Linus Ullmark Vesna trophy card, right? Super
that's
thick,
right.
made out of wood with a big metal plaque and his picture on it.
Mm-hmm.
Number to 100, I think. That's I mean,
Yeah.
that card weighs as much as a brick, basically. It looks great.
But yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff, as a big baseball card guy, that I wish we had.
Yeah.
Back in, but that's why I don't really collect.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I mean, having those kinds of inserts and cards, because normally you're just like, well, I want autographs or rookie autos or super low number cards. It's the more I'm into this hobby, the more I appreciate, rare inserts that can look absolutely fantastic and are very hard to hit, but look great. So very sort of odd cards, and not maybe Metal Universe odd in a sense, when they look like they've been conceived in a design meeting on LSD, but
yes,
cards that you typically don't get that still look nice.
Yeah, and I'll say this on the Metal Universe cards, as crazy as some of them are, and they are crazy, I wouldn't mind trying to piece together a puzzle. So the face cards make a big puzzle of the universe. And I never knew that, and when I heard that, I was kind of like, man, okay, I kind of want them now. But it's one of those things, you got to get them all, because otherwise, but they make, what is it, the solar system? I think they form.
Really, I didn't know that. So that's,
they
had no
form,
idea.
Yeah. So one of the channels that I follow, Perch, he had, this was some months back, had someone on his channel, one of the big ups at Upper Deck, and they were talking about it. And yeah, it was like the big, if you collect them all, they essentially, they don't advertise it, but if you collect them all, they form, I can't remember if it's the solar system, and like the heads make planets, or it's
but it's those floaty heads in space they had in last year's release, right? Yeah.
It's the floating heads, but they form, and I can't remember if it's the Milky Way, what it is, but yeah, those heads make planets and stars and stuff, so they actually form a puzzle.
Right.
So I kind of wouldn't. Part of me wants to do that, but I probably never will.
Watched any good movies lately?
Oh yeah, I watched. I watched Life of Brian the other night when I was couldn't sleep one night, and then I don't really watch a whole lot of new movies. It's mostly just get in the mood for something, slap it on TV. I don't watch a whole lot of movies in general. It's mostly, I know I told you this before, like Top Gear reruns and Grand Tour reruns and stuff like that. But yeah, man, watched. I guess that would be the most recent movie I watched, was Life of Brian.
Right. Okay. So you're a Monty Python guy then?
Yes.
Yeah. So am I.
Yep.
I've watched an incredible amount of Monty Python. But what if you were to rate like the top 3 comedies you've ever watched, then what are the top 3? And you can, I understand if you don't, but you can choose movies not made by Monty Python.
Yes. Well, 3 is tough, and oh god, here's the problem: is you have some movies that are just straight up obvious comedies. You have some that are just very well written, good movies, great movies that also just happen to make you laugh out loud. It's like, was that a comedy? Is that not a comedy?
Yeah.
So that's kind of tough. I mean, to me, I have to put, well, Monty Python and Quest for the Holy Grail has to be, if it's not top 3, it's definitely top 5. So that's there. I would have to say This Is Spinal Tap is probably also high up there, not just because of how funny it is, but because of the way it was done, mockumentary style. Have you seen that one?
I have, but it was quite some time ago, and I think I
Yeah.
only saw half of it. So it's
Okay.
like if I remember correctly, it's like a mockumentary, right?
It
About
is. It is a
a band,
mockumentary.
right? Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But as someone who loves music like I do, and then the history of music and all that kind of stuff, like it was, and they're actually coming out with a new one after all these years. But the fact that the actors that play the main people are Americans that did the British accents and
Yeah,
then would go on tour and on talk shows in character and ad
yeah,
lib, and that whole thing was almost all ad lib, and just
yeah.
there's something about the ad lib nature of those things that just it mesmerizes me. But that's up there. I would have to say The Big Lebowski probably has to be. It's probably the most quotable movie.
Yeah.
None of it's safe for kids or work, but it's probably the most
Or this
quotable movie.
channel.
Or this channel. But I look at even just like acting performances. To me, John
Yeah.
Goodman's character, Walter Sobchak, in that movie, his acting job in that movie is just incredible. There's other ones obviously right there. Like I love Major League, the first one, but I would exclude that from the top 3 just because once you take the Bob Uecker parts out of it, I mean, his parts are what make it so fantastic. You know, I would say the first or Airplane. God, how can I not include Airplane in there? Because that movie's incredible. So yes, top 3 is tough because I'd have to have Airplane in there too. The first Naked Gun was awesome, but I wouldn't have it top 3. So yeah,
It's a bit like choosing the 3 best hockey players in the world.
it is. It is.
It's
It really
impossible.
is.
Yeah.
It is impossible. Yeah, but I would have to have. I would definitely have to have Holy Grail, Spinal Tap, Lebowski, and I'm going to cheat and give it a Rushmore and have the 4, and I'll have Airplane in there as my 4th one. And I know I'm probably leaving out some fantastic comedies. There's some movies, again, technically not a comedy, right? But like Snatch, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, like movies
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
are both funny,
Yeah.
but they're not comedies.
Yeah. I
Man,
mean,
what's yours?
well, I agree with you. It's about. I mean, there are many different kinds of comedies,
Mm-hmm.
so it's also about what kind of mood you're in,
Yeah.
right? So you probably, except for, of course, Monty Python and Holy Grail being the number 1, no matter what mood you're
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Then apart from that, I'd say it depends on the day and what you feel like, right? You will find
Mm-hmm.
different things interesting. But I could easily do a top 3 of only Monty Python movies because
Yeah.
I think they're absolutely fantastic, and I watched them since I was a kid basically, and I
Yeah.
watched them and I watched them again and I watched them again. But I mean, if I'm to pick other movies, I'd say there's a movie called Royal Tenenbaums. I'm not sure
Oh, yeah.
if you've seen.
How could I leave out the Wes Anderson movies? Yeah, Rushmore,
Yeah.
Tenenbaums. Those
Yeah.
are great movies.
They're like, I
Fantastic
mean,
movies.
there you have certain directors. It's like with Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have this
Yep.
sort of British genre of dark, almost noir mob movies with a comedic twist. A lot of Scottish accents, and then you have Vinnie Jones playing like a hitman. Who I don't know if you ever watched him play, but he was a soccer player
Yeah.
for a top league club in the Premier League, and
Oh
he
yeah.
usually got sent off for trying to kill people, more or less,
Mm-hmm.
on the pitch. So super tough guy, right? And he turned actor, and he's in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking
Oh
Barrels
yeah.
in a character where, yeah, if he didn't play soccer, he would probably be a hitman for hire. That sort of suits him, right?
Oh
So
yeah. For sure.
there's a couple of those movies with the same director that are like that. That are all great.
Yeah.
Um, but the Royal Tenenbaums, I mean, if you just look at the actors there, you have
Yep.
Gene Hackman, you have Bill Murray, you have Angelica Houston, you have Gwyneth Paltrow, Ben Stiller, etc., etc., etc. And it's this weird sort of off kind of humor that
Yeah.
I love. That's not.
Love it too.
It's the opposite of a Hallmark movie, right? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
it makes you think all the time, and it's just weird.
It is, and it's also like intertwined though with some truly like great moments that are like, hey, Wes Anderson does a great job using music
Yeah,
in his movies, but like you've got the zaniness of that movie, and then like the quirkiness, and then out of nowhere there's the scene where what's his name? Not Owen Wilson, the other one.
yeah. Luke Wilson, right?
Luke Wilson, thank you.
Yeah,
Like attempts suicide, right? And you got Elliott
yeah,
Smith playing in the background. So what? Where did this come from? And but just the way they they don't last for a second, and then everything's fine. It's back to that quirky again.
yeah, yeah.
But
And
then
you have
at the end,
this main character guy who is dressed like Björn Borg, the tennis
uh-huh.
player, throughout the movie without anyone ever mentioning anything about it,
Yeah,
right? So he
the
just
color in that movie. There's a lot of like 70s like
yeah,
tan in that
yeah,
movie. Like, it's a brilliant movie. Tenenbaum
yeah,
and Rushmore. I thought Rushmore was the first Wes Anderson movie I saw in the theater.
yeah,
And I was like, what the hell is this? This is my kind of movie right here.
yeah,
Like and loved it. And yeah, those are two of my favorite. You're right. But I don't consider them, again, that's that whole like, are they comedies or are they just great movies that are also funny?
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
yeah, man.
that's a great because I mean I also
Are you with me? I don't know if you can hear me. We got to freeze up here.
yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
back here as
So
well.
I heard you say
Yeah,
you also, and then it
yeah.
froze.
I agree completely with you, and I also like these like laugh out loud comedies
Mhm.
like Dodgeball or Anchorman,
Anchorman.
things like that. When I mean he's just brilliant in those
I
kinds of
forgot
movies.
about that one.
Or like Zoolander. If you see
Yeah.
that, which is also just a completely crazy, stupid. I mean, like puberty style stupid movie, which probably has the biggest wardrobe budget of any movie ever made
Yeah.
because the costumes are insane. And I mean, those are great as well. But I kind of like things that are, I like them as well. But I really appreciate movies like Royal Tenenbaum
Yeah.
where there's sort of a quirk to it, right?
And then that even like you're talking about those kind of more immature, like I remember Dumb and Dumber when it came
Yeah,
out. I saw that thing so many times in the theater
yeah,
because we used to have a 99-cent movie theater right by my house. And I used to have it memorized when I was 15
yeah,
years old or however. I mean,
yeah,
memorized. I could sit in my
yeah,
bed and quote the movie from start to finish.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right. As I've gotten older, I appreciate more the great movie that happens to be funny more than just the out and out. But Anchorman, I forgot about that. That's a classic too. God, that's a great movie. As far as like, especially the quotable stuff.
yeah.
And for me personally, because that's a long time ago, it used to be what I wanted to do for a career. So, um, yeah, that's a great one too. Damn. So I
I
knew I'd
mean,
leave out some that.
since we tend to speak about the Swedish versus US perspective, there's a crossover kind of guy. I mean, the starring in Anchorman, he's regularly on U.S. late night talk shows singing Swedish drinking songs or speaking Swedish, or because he's married to a Swede, so
Okay.
he's over here quite a lot in the summers. And he's an LA Kings fan. He likes hockey.
Uh-huh.
He's usually at the games, ringside in a hockey jersey from one of the Swedish SHL teams. So
Okay.
you tend
Yeah.
to, yeah. But I mean, check YouTube, Google his name and Swedish drinking songs, and you'll see him drink vodka straight in on like the late night show or Conan O'Brien or something.
That's awesome.
But
Man, now I'm
yeah,
really
so I have two more movies that I need to talk
Yes.
about.
Yes.
But
Do it.
I mean, if you're looking at like, if we're talking about different moods and things, like a feel good comedy. If you want like a feel good comedy, Four Weddings and a Funeral with
Okay.
British movie with Hugh Grant and Andy McDowell and Rowan
Yep.
Atkinson. It's
I'm like you with Spinal Tap on that one. I saw it one
Yeah.
time many years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's an incredibly British movie, and I mean Hugh Grant plays the same role in every single movie. This sort of overeducated academic, slightly confused, very polite, brought up British person, and I think this is probably his peak interpretation of that.
Okay.
And it's a lot of weird British humor going around. They're going around at weddings and funerals basically, and trying to date people there. So
yeah.
But I think, like you said about great movies, Trainspotting is a movie it's hard to classify it as a comedy, and at the same time it has comedic elements that make you like laugh until you fall over basically. But Ewan McGregor's breakthrough film, British production with a budget of $2 roughly, being shot, and it's just an amazing movie with a fantastic soundtrack about a group of Scottish heroin addicts that are. It's absolutely tragic. I mean, there are babies dying.
The baby scene is tough, man.
Yeah,
baby scene is tough.
And still, it's hilarious. Partly,
I guess there's and then the toilet scene, I guess, where that's like, what am I watching? You know what I'm saying? But no, it's a great movie. It is a great movie. You are right. That is
potentially the best soundtrack of all time, I think.
It's
Iggy Pop.
There's another topic. Yeah. Great soundtracks. But yeah, no, that is a great movie. You're right. That is a great call out. And that is not one that I would, obviously it wasn't meant to be a comedy, I guess, right?
No.
Just a great movie that happens to have very funny scenes in it. But it's also, like you said, it's got that element of drama is not the word, but
well, it's absolute misery and tragedy, right?
Yeah. It is. Yeah, for sure.
People dying of AIDS, and things.
Yeah. Well, and just again, the baby scene is like, oh God.
Yeah, like that hurts. If you're a parent, that's painful to watch. Yeah.
And just having had the kid, I still think about that. Like, okay, are all blankets out of this thing? Like, there's zero chance this kid could in any way be hurt in its sleep, right? Like, I'm not doing anything to. And that's a tough movie, but that is a good one though. I like it. I like that call. I'm trying to think if there's any other ones we've left off that are just fantastic movies, but like The Princess Bride, there's some great lines in that movie that are just, and of course an all-star cast. That's just a great movie. Not a laugh out loud, roll on the floor comedy. But very funny stuff. Yeah, man. I don't know. There's now I'm gonna the rest of the day I'm gonna be racking my brain like what did I leave out? What did we leave out? What did we not talk about?
There's some pretty good early Eddie Murphy movies as well that
Yeah,
are
there is.
comedies that are. I mean, there's the one I don't know I don't remember the name of it. Him and Dan Aykroyd, right? Trading Places. Maybe
Trading
it's called
Places.
Trading Places. Yeah,
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 there is Trading
yeah,
Places.
yeah.
Um, oh God, and now you bring up Dan Aykroyd. I mean, Ghostbusters is a great movie, the first,
Yeah,
but
and Blues Brothers.
also Blues Brothers is great. You've got Planes, John Candy. You didn't even mention John Candy,
Yeah,
like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and I mean that's a classic movie. Got Spaceballs.
yeah. Spaceballs.
Any Mel Brooks
Yeah, and
movie.
all the Mel Brooks movies. All the Mel Brooks movies. God, I watched them a lot as a kid.
Yeah, I did. I will never forget. I mean, I know exactly where I was, what room of the house I was in, what I was doing when I first discovered Spaceballs. And it
Yeah,
was the scene where the camera is slowly panning in on Dark Helmet, and it like
yeah,
hits him in the head. I
yeah,
thought, what is this? This is the
yeah,
greatest thing I've ever seen. And the combing the desert scene and
yeah.
that movie is a classic. That's got to be up there too. Blazing Saddles.
Blazing
Um,
Saddles. Yeah.
My dad's nickname in high school was Mongo, and it was from that movie. His nickname to this day is Mongo. Everyone still calls him that, but it's from the character in that movie. And going back even further, there's some truly Doctor Strangelove is a
Yeah,
great movie.
absolutely.
That's
Peter
also pretty
Sellers
dark.
in that
Peter,
movie. I mean, how many roles is he playing? Like 8, and everyone has a different accent as well.
yes, but to me in that movie, it's George C. Scott's performance,
Yeah,
just the way he plays that general was
yeah,
Buck Turgidson. Uh, as it's to me that's right up there with like with oh gosh, John Goodman's portrayal of Walter Sobchak in The Big Lebowski, like just
yeah,
these secondary characters that just to me make the movie.
yeah.
But there's some great ones, man. We could go on for days about this.
We could go on for days. Yeah, so top 3 isn't easy, but I will tell you that Monty Python and the Holy Grail is at number 1.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be right there. Yeah, it's got to be up there, man. Just the one of my favorite scenes, if not my favorite scene in all the movie, the peasant scene where it's just that brilliant dialogue where they're talking
Yeah,
about But my favorite line possibly in any movie was sort of like, "Look, strange women sitting around in ponds distributing swords is no basis for a system of government." To me, is quite possibly the greatest line in any movie, and then.
yeah,
You can't expect to yield supreme power just because some watery tart threw a sword at you. That's it gets no better than that, man.
yeah,
It gets no better than that. There are those who call me Tim.
yeah.
The
Yeah, I mean,
holy
but
hand grenade of
I mean,
anti.
all the Monty Python movies are so extremely quotable. I mean,
Yes.
the scripts are amazing, and of course, they have their schooling. This
Mm-hmm.
privileged private boy schools, British academia,
Mm-hmm.
where all of the debate clubs and poetry clubs and literature clubs, and they are, of course, amazingly talented at
Yes.
language and at writing a script. But it is incredibly funny. The writing is incredibly funny in all their movies, basically.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh, and their skits too, right? I mean,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
but yeah. Holy Grail though, I think is the classic,
yeah,
just kind of made for that mass audience, like perfect thing that they could have done. And some people hate it. It's not for
yeah,
everybody. I get it because it is quirky and it is British and it is what I mean. At least here, I should say, from an American perspective, a lot of people don't get it. It's like what are they called? The Three Stooges, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
I can't stand the three. Like I never found them remotely funny in any way, shape, or
yeah,
form. But I might be, run out of town on a pole for saying that, depending on where. Like some people think they're the greatest things ever. It's not funny to me. And some people, a lot of people, especially here, feel that way about Python. You either love it and think it's genius, or you're like, how is this?
But I think that I know we've talked about this, you and I, but British humor specifically, it's very similar to Swedish humor in that it's based a lot on sarcasm and irony. So it's not like in your face kind of stuff.
Right.
It's sarcasm, irony, subtle things, right?
That's my favorite kind of humor, is subtle humor. I don't want it to be, I almost don't want there to be a punchline to the joke. To me, the funniest stuff is something that isn't maybe even funny, but if it's super clever and it's, that to me is, okay, that's perfect. That is.
They had that. I mean, when they did the TV series Monty Python and the Flying Circus, they had that as a sort of internal goal in the group to never have a punchline in any of the sketches they wrote. So, and that's why you see John Cleese appear sitting in a suit at a desk all of a sudden saying, "And now for something completely different." It's because you're getting too close to the end of the sketch. So they're just doing something else instead.
Yeah. I mean, just the complete rant. And I don't know why this popped in my head, but like, on that, we've talked about this, love for old Top Gear, and something so crazy is like, I'm just a Top Gear episode popped in my head where they take caravans out and they end up burning a caravan down, right? Because they're trying to cook.
Yeah.
And you've got all this chaos going on. You got them trying to take stuff out, and then like there's this Richard Hammond runs out holding a potato. He's like, "I've got the potato," and he comes out, and it happens like that. But it's just like, why is that so funny? But it is. It
is funny. Yeah.
It's not what you expect. It's just
exactly.
You got all this.
It's not what you expect.
Yeah,
it's not what you expect at all. Right. Yeah.
I just that is my kind of humor, the very subtle humor.
Yeah. Question for you, David.
Yes.
What's up with North American shipping? Why is Can you?
So it is so, and I think you're bringing this up because of the new Canadian thing. Apparently, they're going back on strike.
They're going back on strike. Canada Post was on strike forever, and then they weren't, and now they are back again.
I thought they had resolved everything. Apparently, they hadn't. They had just, whatever, had an agreement to go back to work for a little while. Never actually resolved anything. Some of the Canadian channels that I follow back when it initially happened, all were talking about how very underpaid these people are, and bad work conditions and things like that.
Yeah.
I know Post people here don't make a lot of money, but it, apparently it's a new thing. I don't buy from a ton of Canadian sellers just because it typically is more expensive, obviously. But I did actually just get a shipment in from Slap Sharks.
Yeah.
It was a Canadian seller that somehow they shipped from the U.S. because I guess they're right on the border.
Okay. Yeah.
And I remember Slab Sharks back when Canada was on strike the first time. That was kind of their one advertising piece, was like, hey, if you order from us, we'll still get it to you.
Yeah.
Because it's not just everywhere else in the world not getting. I mean, with the Post on strike in Canada, people who live in Canada can't get their mail.
Yeah.
You can't even get, so that apparently is going to be an issue again. Who knows how long that'll last. I mean, shipping here is ridiculously expensive. If you're talking about eBay, it's, I hate when you have these sellers that charge $4 for shipping and then send it in a plain white envelope. And it's like,
I saw a guy yesterday who charged $14.50 shipping on eBay, who was in the US sending domestic US shipping. For one card.
That's insane. And like, I get it if it's like a multi-hundreds of dollar card and you want insurance on it and you want
of course.
Well, like that one you pulled, that man, I'd have flown there and picked it up. You know what I'm saying, versus having it shipped. But
shipping that kind of card is actually quite nervous because you're handing it off in a box and you really don't know what's going to happen to it. So
I mean, really though, did you? Because I mean, I've seen people who used to sell all the time do that. One of my biggest things I've always been worried about ever selling a card is like, I sell an expensive, not that I have expensive cars, let's just say I did, and I sent it, I did all the things, and then that buyer comes back and says, "Oh, I never got it. I want my money back."
mm,
But I did my part. Like I
mm,
know that an LCS that I go to here, they do a ton of eBay business, and they always like literally film themselves packing everything up and
yeah,
shipping.
yeah, yeah.
Did you do that with the with that Bedard?
Tracked shipment, insured shipment that needs to be signed to be
Yep.
delivered, filming, photographing when packing it,
Okay. Yep.
etc.,
Yep. Yep.
etc. Yeah,
I
yeah,
would have
yeah, yeah.
too, man. I
Yeah.
would have too.
But you never know. That's the thing, because I mean, so Canada Post being on strike half the time you're trying to get something from Canada, that's one thing. But, and I don't mean any disrespect to anyone working for the USPS,
Yeah.
but USPS in Chattanooga,
That was horrible.
who, how is, I mean, you were in one of these community breaks we did, right?
Hmm.
And you hit, of course, a case hit like you always do. And I shipped that
Yes.
to you,
Hmm.
and it got across the pond, across the Atlantic, arrived in the US. Not a problem. I followed the tracking because it's still, I mean, it's a pretty rare card. The Ryan Riley animation card you got, it's a
Yes.
pretty rare card. So I followed tracking, and I followed it, and it came to Chattanooga. It's like,
Hmm.
fantastic. Chattanooga out for delivery. David's going to get it. And then it was back at the USPS facility. And then it was sent away from Chattanooga. Then it was in
Hmm.
Nashville, and then it was in another state. And then I texted you and said, you better call them before I get this back.
Yep.
And now
And
I have another package on my
yep.
way to you, which is bought in the US, because so we don't
Yep.
have this transatlantic shipping thing. It got to
Yeah.
Chattanooga. It was out for delivery in Chattanooga. Then it got back to the distribution center. Then it got to Denver, Colorado. And I checked this morning, it's in Texas now.
Unbelievable.
So what's going on with set? And this is a tracked shipment. Tracked, so it's
Right.
not like a regular shipment. It's a track. So what's going on with USPS?
I don't know. And not only that, so if we go back to the one where you sent me the cards from that break, so I called
Uh-huh.
USPS and they gave me some BS line about you put the wrong address and all this stuff. I'm like, well, he sent me stuff before.
Yeah.
And if he put the wrong address, why did it even show up in Chattanooga to begin with? Because the way that mail comes to me, it always either stops off. So when I buy a card on eBay, it almost always either it goes through Nashville or Knoxville and then comes here.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And it did that. I'm like, so why did it come to Chattanooga if the address was wrong? But I remember I told you, like, don't worry about it, man. It's going to get here. It's going to get here. She's lying to me. Don't worry about it. Because she told me it was going to go back to you. Well, sure
Yeah.
enough, 2 days later, it shows up at my door. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I've never had one not show up.
Okay.
Sometimes it gets
Yeah.
whatever, but I've never actually had one not show up. The only time I ever had, I take that back. I did have one not show up one time, and because I think they delivered it to the wrong house is what happened.
Okay.
But it eventually got sent back and eventually came back to me. And I felt bad because I'd messaged the seller, and it was a dirt cheap card. It wasn't
Uh-huh.
really, but I messaged the seller to see, like, and they gave me a refund. And then, as always happens, the card shows up like 2 days later. So I messaged them back, like, hey, let me pay you for this card again, because it just
Yeah.
showed up. Like, I'll just charge me whatever, and I'll buy a different
Yeah.
card from you. Don't ship it,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't do it. I mean, again, it wasn't an expensive card, but like, yeah, that I've never actually not had something eventually show up. It will get
Oh,
here.
okay.
It's just a matter of, I don't get it. But the one, like you said, though, because when you very first sent to me, it was like, all right, is it going to survive the going across the ocean and all the
Yeah.
things?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it did swimmingly until it got to
Yeah.
Chattanooga, Tennessee. And then we, by God, couldn't handle it here. Um, So I don't know, man. It's a mess. But whenever I go into the post office, it's just to see the haphazard way everything is done. Well, no wonder it's a mess. There's crap everywhere. Like, how does anything get to where it's supposed to be? I don't get it. And you wait in line for 20 minutes just to ship something off, and you just, I don't know. I don't get it. I really don't. But it is what it is. But I will say, I feel like, was it 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, there was a big thing about the USPS in the United States in general was just awful, especially around Christmas time. And people were complaining all over YouTube about, it's taking me a month and a half to get my card. We didn't have that problem. I was getting stuff no problem. Ours seems to be when no one's mailing anything and there shouldn't be an issue, there is. So it is what it is. Like I say, everything will get here eventually. I don't know. I will say this. If they paid me a decent amount of money, I'd love to be a mailman. Just riding around all day. I don't have to talk to anybody. I can listen to podcasts. I can.
Yeah, imagine the amount of podcasts you would listen to.
Oh, I know. That'd be great. Get to drive someone else's car. The things I would do in a mail truck. The Top Gear style challenges I would set up in neighborhoods and cul-de-sacs and handbrake turns around it. That would be awesome. Yeah, honestly, though, it's funny. I always thought, and this is me being ignorant, I always just thought Sweden was like, nothing but snow-capped mountains, and you know what I'm saying? Like, basically stuff I'd seen on Top Gear.
Yeah. Well, you do get that. I mean, if you travel to the far north of Sweden, that's what it's like.
Yeah.
You have like mountains, you have snow-capped mountains year-round, and snow in the valleys come really early, and it's cold and it's dark, and it can get really fucking cold. But that's in the north, and we're just we're just east of Denmark, like maybe 10 U.S. miles east of Denmark, between Sweden and Denmark. And we're just north of the northern part of Germany. So it's, pretty far south.
All right, this begs a question. I've always wanted to know this. So do you drip the faucets when it's getting really cold? Do you guys have to do that there?
Drip the faucets?
Okay, I mean, that answers that question.
That?
So yeah. So whenever it gets really cold here, and I don't know the science behind this. There's probably no science behind it. We've always been told to drip the faucets, meaning at night, if it's going to be down, especially like in the 20s, when you start talking about 20s and colder, let your water faucets literally drip, slow drip, to keep your pipes from freezing.
So it doesn't freeze? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, we don't. So all that kind of stuff is, buildings here are extremely well insulated. Everything like water, electrical, sanitation is extremely well insulated. So you can go, I'll have to look up what this is in Fahrenheit for you, because the Fahrenheit scale compared to what we use in Celsius the conversion is absolutely bizarre. You have something multiplied by 2/3 divided by something else. So it's incredible.
Yes.
But so we use the Celsius scale, which is basically 0 degrees is freezing, 100 degrees is water's boiling, right?
Yeah.
But the houses here are built to withstand like minus 25 degrees Celsius at least, maybe more, without having any problems with heating or water or what that is. In fact, I'll look it up and I'll add a bar to the video of what that is, but. So you can easily, I mean, minus 10, minus 15 isn't unusual to get like a spot of that for a week in the winter here, and up north you seriously have minus 20 degrees for long periods of time. So
interesting. So hang on, I don't know why I care this much, but so minus 10 degrees Celsius is 14 degrees Fahrenheit, which we get down to quite a bit in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So, okay. But yeah, so if we get down to that temp, we're dripping the faucets.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, minus 20 degrees Celsius is minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit. We don't typically, where I live, hit the negatives.
Yeah.
So that's really cold. But yeah, we have to drip faucets. So I didn't know if that was a
no, it's built to
or,
withstand it. And you know,
okay.
we have like all houses have triple glazing, all houses have, you know, all sorts of measures. So what we don't have though is, and what's becoming an issue now with the sort of climate change happening, is all these super well insulated houses. If you then have 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer, it's hot because
Yeah.
heat doesn't dissipate right through these kind of walls and glasses. So and I know like in the US you have a lot of air conditioning installed, and that's typically not the case here. It's becoming a thing. It's becoming a thing now because of the heat in the summers, but before that hasn't been a thing. So
yeah, my wife growing up, they never had air conditioning because they didn't need it. She's from Vermont, you know, so there's high up north as it gets basically here. And yeah, they didn't need it in the summertime. It never got hot enough to need it. And it was, you know, up there, it was always below freezing and you're shoveling snow off your roof every day.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah,